I love salty stuff.
Amen.
Amen, right? I mean, sometimes a sweet snack kind of hits the spot, but more often than not, if I'm feeling munchy, I go salty, 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 right? Maybe potato chips, maybe some pistachios or cashews. Oh, yeah, pretzels, popcorn, Cheetos even, if it's a banner day. I love how the salt just draws all those flavors out, especially that oily, good crunchiness. It just makes it so satisfying. The salt makes it. Have you ever had soup that's unsalted? Or potato chips that don't have any salt? It doesn't taste right, does it? We need salt. Maybe in moderation, if we're honest with ourselves, but we need salt. And I love that in the gospel today, Jesus uses the idea of salt to talk about what it means to be who we are as God's people in the world. You are the salt of the earth, he proclaims. You all are the salt of the earth. And salt, in its initial first century context in which this story would have first been heard, salt would have had some immediate and interesting connotations for people that we might miss today. The first of which had to do with the temple sacrifice. For salt was a common offering made there, put forth as the people's relationship with God was being made right. And of course, salt may also have conjured the idea of faithfulness in everyday relationships, as eating together with others was sometimes referred to as sharing salt, signifying a bond of shared resources and trust. And salt could have also connected to the idea of purification or preservation, especially as it was used to keep food safe. And of course, it also would have been noted as that everyday seasoning that makes food delightful to eat. And so when Jesus proclaimed that these folks who are following him, that are listening to him on the Sermon on the Mount, when he proclaims that these folks are already the salt of the earth, the implication is that they are already part of all these things that salt represents. They're already part of God making right relationships with humanity. And they're already part of God making right relationships between them and their neighbors. And God's then outpouring of saltiness is that good seasoning in life that makes things right, that makes life all that it can be. Indeed, Jesus seems to be saying that God is already up to something in their lives, and they don't even have to earn it in any way, this status, this identity, this way of being salt, but rather that is simply already part of who they are. And the same is true of us as well. For God has already formed us as the salt of the earth too, making us right with God and right with our neighbors, laying a foundation of trustworthiness and faithfulness so that we together might be part of this seasoning of life for the sake of the common good. And when Jesus says he is fulfilling the law and the prophets, this is what this is about. Being the people God has made us to be, not for our own sake, but for the sake of others, for the sake of the life of the world. For salt does not exist to make itself salty, and light, if we continue the metaphor, does not exist to make its own self luminous. Salt gives saltiness to others, and light brings luminance and light to others, which is part of what the prophet Isaiah speaks of today as well, as he calls out the people of his day for not living in socially just ways that recognize this being salt and light for others. As he says, Look, you who serve your own interest on your fast day with your religious observances, you oppress all your workers. Look, you fast only to quarrel and to fight and to strike with a wicked fist. Such fasting as you do today will not make your voice heard on high. This is no way to observe the faith, just doing things for the sake of doing things. But is this not rather the fast that I choose? To seek humility and loose the bonds of injustice for others and undo the thongs of the heavy yoke and to let the oppressed go free? Doesn't the fast, the spiritual practices, the faithful things I call for include sharing your bread with the hungry and bringing the homeless poor into your own house? Of course. For true religious observances like fasting and worshiping and observing the liturgy and offering prayers and offerings and all the like, these things are like salt and light. They do not exist for their own sake, but are rather for the sake of illuminating and enriching life beyond this place. And the gift then is that God has already given much salt and much light to the world so that we together as God's people might respond in kind by being that salt and light that we already are and embracing that saltiness and that luminance of what it means to be God's people that might serve to somehow make life good, not just for us, but for others primarily. Loosening those bonds of the world's injustices. Lightening all heavy yokes upon people, and letting go free all who are oppressed by envy. So perhaps the good word for us today, dear church, is to then embrace our saltiness and embrace the luminance God has already given us. And know that Christ's good and life-giving work that has already begun will continue to carry forward and show us how to be salty and be light in this world and look for the ways that we can make a difference in the lives of others. For indeed, Christ's light and love shines everywhere, leaving no one left out. And I do hope that that journey does include at least a bit of a salty snack along the way. Because indeed, we need it. So embrace your saltiness. Embrace your luminance. Christ is with us and is with this world and will bring life to us all. Amen.